Some days ago, Ryan Cherki stood at Wembley, Manchester City, leading Arsenal 2-0 in the Carabao Cup Final. And instead of keeping it simple, he cushioned a pass from Rodri and just started doing kick-ups right in front of the Arsenal bench. With nearly 30 minutes still left on the clock, Ben White was furious. Pep Guardiola was shaking his head on the touchline. Gary Neville called it arrogant on live television. And the internet lost its mind. But here's the real question: where does Cherki's moment rank in football's long and glorious history of showboating? Because trust us, the legends on this list, they make Cherki look like a beginner. These are the 10 biggest showboaters in football history. Ranked. Number 1. Ronaldinho. There was never going to be another name at the top, Ronaldinho Gaucho, the figure who single-handedly made an entire generation precisely fall in love with this sport. What distinguished him from every player on this list and from almost every footballer who ever lived wasn't the trickery or the goals alone. It was the smile, the uncontainable joy radiating from him every time his boots touched a ball. Ronaldinho played as though football was the greatest privilege imaginable, and every single person watching felt that transmit through their screen. One word: elastico. At the 2002 World Cup, he delivered one of the great individual tournament performances, helping Brazil claim the trophy. Then at Barcelona, he became the sun around which the entire club orbited, claiming the Ballon d'Or in 2005 and driving back-to-back La Liga titles. He dazzled at the Bernabeu and earned a standing ovation from Real Madrid supporters, their own fans, for an opponent. No visiting player had received that before. None has since. Any player can try, but compared to Ronaldinho, that was a warm-up. This man was the blueprint, the original, the greatest entertainer football has ever produced. Number 2. Neymar. No modern footballer transported street football onto a professional stage more completely than Neymar Jr. At Santos, footage was already spreading globally, a teenager dismantling professionals with a confidence bordering on supernatural. Rainbow flicks in the Copa Libertadores, elasticos at full sprint, no-look passes that created goals while shattering reputations. Then came Barcelona, the MSN trio, and a Champions League winners' medal from the historic 2015 treble. Even alongside Messi and Suarez, Neymar remained the most entertaining individual on the pitch. Injuries fractured what could have been the defining career of this generation, but at his absolute peak, Neymar was something else. There is only one reason he doesn't occupy this top position, and that's because he has always openly acknowledged who the greatest entertainer of his lifetime was. Number 3. JJ Okocha. So good they had to name him twice. Augustine. JJ Okocha didn't just possess tricks, he wielded an entire vocabulary defenders had never encountered. That's the difference between skill and witchcraft. After electrifying fans at Eintracht Frankfurt and Fenerbahce, including a legendary goal against Oliver Kahn in the Bundesliga that has accumulated tens of millions of views online, Okocha arrived at Bolton and transformed them into must-watch television for supporters everywhere. Sam Allardyce built his entire marketing strategy around the man. Free kicks bending in directions physics didn't allow, opponents crumpling without being touched. To this day, Okocha remains the finest player in Bolton's history, and it isn't a debate, pure art. Number 4. Adel Taarabt. Adel Taarabt is the kind of footballer who leaves hardened managers struggling for words. Neil Warnock, one of the most experienced and no-nonsense bosses English football has ever produced, publicly declared that Taarabt was the most gifted individual he'd ever worked with in his entire managerial career. Not just at QPR, not only in the Championship, ever. And if you watched the 2010-11 season, you understood exactly why. The Moroccan was untouchable, collecting possession deep, gliding past 2, 3, 4 defenders with feints and shifts that followed no recognizable pattern, then finishing or threading passes through gaps that had no right existing. QPR clinched the championship that campaign, and Taarabt was the heartbeat of everything. Spells at AC Milan and Benfica followed, but nothing replicated those heights. Yet in that one season, Adel Taarabt offered glimpses of ability that belonged somewhere far beyond the reach of ordinary players. Number 5. Joe Cole. Now this is an unexpected entry for many people. Pelé once described Joe Cole as the most gifted young player he had encountered in a long time. Not in England, not in Europe, globally. When Cole surfaced at West Ham in the late 1990s, the excitement surrounding a teenager hadn't reached that pitch in years. He carried Brazilian DNA in a London frame, stepovers, body feints and combinations executed at a pace that strained the eye. At Chelsea under Jose Mourinho, he evolved into one of the most complete attacking midfielders in Premier League history, drilling spectacular volleys, delivering in big fixtures, and somehow still humiliating fullbacks with tricks that had no business working at that standard. Knee problems derailed him at the precise moments he was building towards something extraordinary. England never witnessed his ceiling, but between 2005 and 2008, nobody in the top flight was more exhilarating to follow. Number 6. Ricardo Quaresma. Here's a man who made the outside of his boot more lethal than most players' strongest foot. Ricardo Quaresma grew up at Sporting alongside a young Cristiano Ronaldo, and at the time was viewed as the superior talent. His signature weapon was the triveller, a cross or effort bent using the outer part of his right boot, defying everything goalkeepers and defenders had prepared for. In the opposite direction to every conventional instinct, and no system existed to neutralize it. Moves to Barcelona, Inter Milan and Besiktas followed, along with a Euro 2016 winners' medal with Portugal. Quaresma could have simplified his approach and earned more consistent recognition. Instead, he stayed true to his outrageous identity until the very end. Nothing but respect. Number 7. Hatem Ben Arfa. Same energy, different country. Equally painful story. Hatem Ben Arfa is one of football's greatest what-ifs. On his finest days, and there were enough of them, he operated at a level most elite players cannot access. That goal for Newcastle against Bolton in 2012, where he collected possession wide left and bypassed 4 defenders in a compressed channel before finishing calmly, remains among the most jaw-dropping individual Premier League strikes ever recorded. His stint at Nice between 2015 and 2017 was equally breathtaking, the standout performer in League One, delivering wonder goals regularly, drawing interest from top clubs all over again. The heartbreak is that his relationship with managers never held together long enough. PSG signed him and benched him almost immediately. A career that deserved medals became a collection of magnificent moments separated by extended frustration, but those moments absolutely filthy. Number 8. Rene Higuita. Now this entry is different because Rene Higuita is a goalkeeper who belongs on a showboating list without question. El Loco, the madman. The Colombian grew up in Medellin originally as a striker before taking over between the posts, and he never lost that attacker's mentality. He would dribble past opposition forwards, join attacks, score from free kicks. His coach Francisco Maturana famously said, "With Rene, we have 11 outfield players." But the defining moment came at Wembley in September 1995. A harmless cross from Jamie Redknapp floated toward him, and instead of catching it, the most straightforward action imaginable, Higuita dove forward, arched his back and cleared it with the heels of both feet. The scorpion kick. The stadium gasped. The commentator thought the referee had blown the whistle. That moment ranked in Channel 4's 100 Greatest Sporting Moments in 2002. A goalkeeper, fully deserving of this list. Number 9. Curlon. Few players in history left a legacy as unique as Curlon. In 2005, this 17-year-old Brazilian was tearing apart the South American U-17 Championship, and scouts from Real Madrid, Barcelona and Manchester United were all watching. But it wasn't his goals that made him famous worldwide. It was one specific move, the seal dribble. Curlon would flick the ball up onto his forehead and simply run past defenders with the ball bouncing on his head like an actual circus act. And the wild part? You couldn't stop it legally. Opponents were so desperate that one Atletico Mineiro player elbowed him so hard he received a 120-day ban for it. That's how threatening this move was. It was sending people to suspensions just for attempting to deal with it. Injuries ultimately robbed the world of what could have been one of the most spectacular careers the sport had ever witnessed. But the seal dribble lives forever on YouTube, and nobody who has ever seen it has forgotten a single second of it. Number 10. Lee Trundle. Finishing this list is a name that might surprise you, but hear us out. Lee Trundle never graced the Premier League, never played Champions League football, spent his prime at Swansea, Wrexham and Bristol City. But what he did in those lower divisions was so outrageously entertaining that Soccer AM featured him on national television almost every week. Rainbow flicks, no-look passes, backheel finishes, in League One and the Championship. Goals that wouldn't look out of place in a 5-star FIFA reel. Defenders had no answer because nobody at that level had encountered anything like him. His name became the definition of showboating in English football. To this day, players get compared to Trundle and consider it the highest honour. That's legacy. Ryan Cherky still has a lot to learn to make this list in the future. Which of these legends made your jaw drop the hardest? Drop your answer in the comments if you enjoyed this one. Smash the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell so you never miss out. Catch you in the next one. Bye.